We're live. Setting's good. Setting good.
Hold on.
Huh?
It was 8. It was at 100. Oh, I love my computer.
Just don't overmodulate.
Okay.
We're good.
We're good. We're live.
My bacon is good.
Bacon is great.
Yeah,
Bacon is one of the things that make life worth living.
It's like a treat on this diet. I can have 2 eggs and 2 bacon. So
Oh, man. I bet
I'm
you,
gonna have 2 eggs and 2 bacon.
if anything, the diet will be good for just reigniting a love affair with bacon.
You learn how to make food and like really prepare it the right way and make it taste delicious, even though it's like greens and
Yeah.
spinach. Anyway, hot diet talk. All right, here we go. 3, 2, and oh wait, 1. Well, it is the Jets and it is the Colts in our first game of the Week 9 preview here on the Audible. It's part 1, and the Jets side of things got interesting because of Mike blinking White. Yeah, that's right. And because of Michael Carter, certainly. And there's some other players, Bloom, that we could jump through and talk about, Louder with Crowder, or Corey Davis, or whatever, but kind of ignited here by the quarterback and by that rookie running back that's doing more.
Yeah, this is a really interesting game for a Thursday night showcase game, right? Because both of these teams, both of these quarterbacks are at these potential turning points in their career. The Mike White story is great. He wasn't highly regarded coming out of college. Had a good Senior Bowl. There's your first Senior Bowl references. Had a good Senior Bowl and hung around the Cowboys organization for a while, hung around the Jets organization, but never that highly regarded around the league, obviously. And now really has a chance to begin to build his destiny as an NFL starting quarterback. And the Colts are probably a pretty good opponent to draw. They lost Julian Blackmon. They don't have a great cornerback group. And this offense is working. And see, that's the other thing in the background here with Eric Stoner on the couch. We talked about this yesterday, that it was Zach Wilson just not ready. Like sometimes even if you take a quarterback number 2 overall, you have to be willing to say he's not ready. Because all of a sudden this looks like an NFL offense. How much of it was we thought, oh, the line is atrocious or it's just unfair, the conditions he's been put under, Bill Belichick's tormenting him. Well, maybe he just wasn't ready. And then we talked about how that can be potentially damaging, a career-damaging move. So maybe this is a blessing in disguise for the Jets that Mike White's playing well enough that Wilson can go back to the drawing board. But for fantasy, now we're looking at Michael Carter, someone we have to play. Absolutely. Probably Jamison Crowder, maybe Ty Johnson, maybe Elijah Moore even. This is going to be fun to watch against this defense. And then there's the Denzel Mims story, right? See, this got a lot of reaction on Twitter from me old Twitter megaphone when I said, because the Jets getting calls about Mims, but not going to trade him. Which just seems to be this pattern. There's a lot of good like armchair psychology out there when people were answering my rhetorical question. Why is it the teams seem to grip players they don't want to use when it comes time to think about trading them? But he did play, as many pointed out to me, the most snaps of any wide receiver on the Jets last week. So maybe there's something there. And maybe they're holding on to him because they really do see something and they're going to bring it out in him. And certainly a better offensive environment could help that story. And then we have the very sad story, right? It's the two faces. This is the tragedy, the Carson Wentz story.
Yeah, that's tragedy. I'm thinking about Denzel Mims and Michael Pittman because I saw them together at the Senior Bowl. And you know who was better? Denzel Mims. And Michael Pittman's a player now. He's a player. Now, at that game, he wasn't using his body to, like, box out defenders, and it was kind of shocking. He was one of my favorite players going into that game, and I saw him, and I was like, man, use that body. He's using the body now. Sweep the leg. Michael Pittman and company, of course, they sweep the leg with, of course, Jonathan Taylor there. So let's get to the comedy/tragedy. Just life in general, I guess, that is life with Carson Wentz.
Right. Well, and literally throwing the game away. I guess not. I guess literally he'd be putting it in the garbage can. And it felt like that for Colts fans. So how does he bounce back? Certainly it's not a matchup that's imposing. It's one that he should be able to do what he wants to do with Michael Pittman, with Jonathan Taylor. And again, you can see how those 2 picks in the second round really are going to shape this offense for years to come, fantasy lineups for years to come. But otherwise, this is an offense. I don't know, Zach Pascal. I love Mo Alley Cox, but he disappeared last week. There's not much else. So I think against the Jets defense, that's going to work probably. Like, again, that NBA got like 3-man game, and Wentz probably also a good play here. Now, that being said, the Jets are feisty, right? I mean, they beat the Titans and the Bengals. And there's no excuses with the Bengals, like with the Titans. You can say, oh, injuries to the wide receivers. No excuses. And the Colts may actually be a good team in disguise because they've played well enough against good teams to beat them, and then they just puke all over themselves and lose the game. So could the Jets knock them off? And again, this is a pretty fun Thursday night game. At least I hope it turns out to be fun.
I hope it turns out to be fun, and I hope Sunday we get a good game. In this one, it is Cleveland. It is Cincinnati. That is our next game up. And the Cleveland side is like, oh, Baker, you're trying hard, man. Maybe Odell Beckham Jr.'s dad's like, try a little harder to find my kid when he is open. All right. Well, try a little harder with those backfield. The backfield is solid, right? It's fun to watch. Nick Chubb out there. Dearness Johnson earning a larger role, which he, now imagine when they get Hunt back, like, oh my God, they got a 3-headed backfield mess to deal with. And yeah, it's kind of messy with the wide receivers. Donovan Peoples-Jones hasn't hit like we thought he was going to hit. He hit for a little bit, again, windows. And well, now it's a window where he's not hitting. And Jarvis Landry's either hurt or fumbling the ball or getting frustrated, Bloom. But either way, the Browns and Bengals will start on the Brown side, and it could be fun.
Yeah, Beckham, I think, excused from practice today. What's the official word, Cease? Not at practice today. And, well, I don't know where this is going, but it is a very 2021 NFL story, right? That Odell's dad posts a montage of Baker not throwing the ball to Odell when he's open on his Instagram, and then other Browns players like the post, right? I mean, this is not a new dynamic. It just plays itself out in public in a way that it was never able to before. So what happens now? I don't know. I mean, I know for fantasy, Beckham and redraft leagues, you probably dropped him. You should have dropped him. Jeez. Boy, do I feel terrible about buying into that story again, because, and we'll talk about Michael Thomas at some point too, maybe on the show, maybe on part 2. But it's almost like these careers become hexed or cursed, like a voodoo doll somewhere. I hate to even appeal to that image because there's a lot of wonderful things in voodoo, uplifting things. But the point is that this is over, right? I mean, it's a foregone conclusion that this is going to be over at some point. And meanwhile, the other side of this cease is whether to give Baker Mayfield a big extension, right? So, tectonic
We're still
things.
having that conversation?
Well, because they're just going to do it. Well, they're going to do it, right? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. I mean, why? We're still having the conversation. Oh, okay. Yeah. Hey, Baker Mayfield extension, everybody. Like, he's trying.
Yeah, I think they're going to give it to him. So, I mean, it's just the direction the franchise is going. But the other direction, of course, is Nick Chubb and Jarvis Landry. And Landry could be a fantasy asset as the number 1 receiver for this team if he was a little healthier. It didn't work out last week for him, that key fumble. And in the background here, we have the Cleveland-Cincinnati matchup. It's always intriguing. It can always go any number of directions. And both of these teams are at tipping points in their season because Cleveland, this is almost a survival game. Like, look at Cleveland's schedule coming up. All right. It's not getting easier for them. New England, Detroit, okay, they get a breather. Back-to-back games against Baltimore around a bye. And then the Raiders, the Packers, the Steelers, and the Bengals. There's not really any breaks there. So they're almost like in a mode where every game is a survival game. And then, of course, Cincinnati has to answer the inevitable outcome of losing to the Jets when you're at the high point of the franchise, like in the last 10 years.
Yeah, well, the problem is the Bengals are fighting themselves. they're fighting their history. It's almost like fighting a past version of yourself. There's an idea in there, Bloom. I think I'm going to jot that one down. But as I get into my creative mode and for my eyes glaze over, please talk about the Bengals.
Yeah, and for fantasy, this is fun, right? Cleveland's defense, the Steelers, they can hold down the Steelers, but I'm not really afraid of that. So Chase was held down a little bit. That helped Boyd have a big day to put another one together. Maybe, I'm certainly open to Higgins. I think as a player, you have to break ties in favor of getting more involved downfield. Even CJ Uzomah, it's been good enough in his good games. This could be one of those games. Cleveland's injuries at linebacker, injuries at safety, so that could be his music. But the fantasy angle is in what's interesting here. What's interesting here, Cecil, we talked about it again, bring up Eric Stoner, world famous, the crabs in a bucket, that the AFC is just pulling each other down. Nobody can get on top of the AFC, and they're weakening each other in the process, right? They're beating each other up. So whatever team does eventually emerge is going to drag themselves to the Super Bowl, and it makes for really compelling games. But at the same time, Cease, we're only at week 9, like with new 18-week season, we're officially at the threshold where after week 9 is the second half of the season. So we're just finishing up the first half of the season, and some of these teams have already had an entire season in terms of emotions and ups and downs. So how does Cincinnati answer the bell? Both of these teams have to feel a sense of urgency in this one.
A sense of urgency abounds. Not really. It's Denver, Dallas up next, and it's like, okay, you trade away Von Miller, but we're not punting on the season. The Rams are just better than us, and we wanted to be good to Von. They are stocking up for Aaron Rodgers. I know that Dan Patrick said someone in Denver told him that. Huh? Interesting. Yeah, shocker. The Broncos are stockpiling picks so that they can make a run at Aaron Rodgers because the Packers backed out last year. So let's talk about them now against Dallas. And it looks like Trevon Diggs is going to play. We certainly know Micah Parsons is playing. How do we know that, Bloom? Because he's everywhere.
Right.
So against this team, you go, okay, how effective can the Pat Shurmur offense be? I'm just going to give it to you in a lump. Okay. Because that's kind of the lump. I was out in the backyard.
Sure,
I was out in the backyard poop scooping, right?
Right.
And I was like, it's like dealing with the Broncos offense.
It is. See, one of the first things I wanted to say in this game, there was a Denver-Dallas Super Bowl, right? In the late 70s?
Yeah, it was Super Bowl 12.
Super Bowl 12.
Craig Morton versus Roger Staubach, which was interesting because Morton and Staubach used to be teammates, and they rotated series. They would even rotate plays as Tom Landry didn't know who to start.
Right. And what that makes me think of is being very young and looking through NFL books about Super Bowls, right? It was a great history. I mean, it felt like books about, I don't know, wars or something, where you could tell by the way the book made it feel like some of the most momentous events in human history. It was called a Super Bowl. I was a kid, like 3 or 4 or 5, looking through these books, looking at the pictures. And anyway, it's just fun remembering falling in love with football, because if you're a Denver fan, you're not enjoying it at all right now. Nope. You're not, why am I a fan of this team? And this is not going to help. Lump. I like that, Cease, because what you're looking at here is, you've got 2 running backs, 2 tight ends, 3 wide receivers, and Teddy Bridgewater can, at the very least keep the engine going and keep the car on the road, but isn't exactly going to win any races. And the Dallas defense is actually good, Cecil. The Dallas defense is good. How long has it been since we've said that?
It's been a minute. Yeah.
It's been a while. So who are you going to trust? I mean, for fantasy, who are you going to break ties in favor of? Where is there a matchup to explode? I mean, I guess Dallas has been giving up some big plays downfield, maybe Cortland Sutton on something downfield, a 50-50 ball. But this just feels like it's going to be a miserable afternoon. Like you said, Cease, in the background is this idea of we're 4-4, we're still in, there's lots of things can happen, but you just traded away Von Miller, so come on. And meanwhile, again, getting used to these new ideas that Dallas maybe is a Super Bowl favorite. If so, they should be able to dismiss it. This should be an exhibition for the fans to enjoy themselves and spill beer on themselves.
Yeah, I'd rather talk about Joel, our guy in the chat room from Alicante, Spain.
I wish I was in Spain.
I just looked where that was. It's next to Murica.
Yeah,
and it's right on the water. Beautiful,
yeah, of course.
Beautiful.
Iberia.
Yeah, there we go. Appreciate you all worldwide. I said worldwide, and it's worldwide. Dallas is America's team. There's the world's team.
The world's team, yeah.
And, in talking to people, there is a belief that even if it's Cooper Rush, they can beat Denver. So Dak should play. Again, we're recording Wednesday morning, just for everyone that's listening or watching. The word around Dallas is that Dak should play, but there's also word around Dallas of we can beat Denver with Cooper Rush because, you'll feed the ground game. The Broncos can't stop the run. Minnesota made a concentrated effort to stuff the run. They did. They just couldn't stop Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Cedric Wilson. Okay, that was the problem. So, start your Cowboys this week. Should be a good week if you got a star on the side of your helmet.
Yeah, exactly, right. On the flip side, Denver is a defense, it's a multiplier effect now, right? I mean, I don't want to say that Von Miller was that important to that defense, but it's just the effect of going and suiting up and playing without him, right?
Yeah, and they got a snitch in the locker room. This was an Adam Beasley report that then Noah Fant backed up on the air, on our airwaves, on 104.3 The Fan. And it was so funny because, I say things like KOA or whatever, you listen to Altitude or whatever, but all the people in the other stations, they can't say the Fan. Noah Fant was on the radio. Noah Fant was on the Fan. He was on the Noah Fant show with Stokely and Zach, and he backed up the report that Von's Halloween party, which is always a nightmare. Vaughn, why do you have a Halloween party that either gets Chad Kelly drunk and in somebody's house getting beat by a vacuum, or now the drama is guys didn't want to pitch in? Vaughn wanted to cancel because they're on a losing streak because Vaughn's an actual leader. And then they didn't cancel, and then Vaughn's like, hey, you going to kick in? And Noah didn't even go, and he kicked in. Because, you said, hey, can you kick in, I don't know, 5 Gs or whatever it is. I don't know the price.
Right.
And so somebody didn't. That caused locker room tension. And then someone told the damn media. Now, I don't know if they told Adam Beasley. I know Adam just a tiny bit. But legitimate reporter, good reporter, reputable reporter. And then that got out. And then it was even Noah said yesterday, I don't know who told media. I don't know who's talking. But now and it's week 9, dude. And we're in the point of the locker room where everyone's going to talk. So somebody didn't pay Vaughn. Vaughn got mad, and then Vaughn gets traded. Didn't have anything to do with the trade, but just more drama here in Denver. Start your Cowboys. Let's make this a Cowboy show. That would make me happy, Bloom.
Right. Well, hey, the Cowboys are the much more uplifting story here. And again, I'm going to bring up the conversation with Eric. It was fabulous having Eric sit on the couch. It was very fruitful. It was very fertile. Check it out, folks. Even if you don't listen to the couch, I hope you at least checked it out. This is a good one. But we talked about any given Sunday, trying to unpack any given Sunday, right? And the idea being that our analysis establishes the median or mean performance of a team, but then there's the variance of how they can perform week to week. And the variance can be greater than the difference between the means. And that's how you get any given Sunday, right? But where you are at on your variance is often an emotional thing, right? As a team, where are you at emotionally, psychologically? I think one of the most underreported, but something people try to get at when they talk about the locker room is that teams are kind of a social organism, right? Like a hive, and there's vibes and thoughts and things bouncing around.
There's code. There's an unwritten code.
Well, that too. It should be a sort of private and sacred thing too. And when that holy, sacred bond gets broken, that in and of itself deflates things, right? Everybody's kind of just on their own, and it's not even when it's not a social organism, or that creates all of the negativity. What we're getting at here is that we're all tracing this picture, and Cecil, it's great the way you, because it is that petty, right? Sometimes it is in our lives too. It is that petty. It can be something that petty that becomes lights the fuse of the thing that ruins something, right? Dallas's season's going wonderfully. Denver's ruined. Start your Cowboys. And by the way, Cedric Wilson threw one again. I just want to say it a few more times before we forget, because in the NFL, it's like sandcastles. Just the next week, it gets, it's a beautiful sandcastle that Cedric Wilson pass was one of the best passes of the season, period, that anybody has thrown, quarterback or non-quarterback. Yeah. Cedric Wilson making a name for himself, even though Michael Gallup's probably going to be back. The cup runneth over, right? All these other teams are like depth. Like, what are we going to do? We don't want to trade anybody off our bench because we might need that depth. And Dallas is getting stronger. Dallas's bye week, a trade deadline acquisition, Michael Gallup. That's a pretty good trade deadline acquisition.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Pretty good times here on the Audible until we talk about Houston and Miami. Okay, is Tyrod Taylor back yet? Do the running backs? I mean, no. Cooks, maybe some garbage time. I mean, It's not like Miami defensively has been the 85 Bears. But yeah, let's talk about this game quickly so we can move on.
It's depressing, right? Yeah. This is in a game that could decide the order of the top 5 of the 2022 NFL draft. I mean, that's where we're at.
You want to depress a Broncos fan because it is a Broncos show. Do you know where they'd be picking in the draft right now? 17.
Oh, no, that's even worse.
Hey, you stink. You're terrible, and you're going to pick around 20. Good job.
Right. A 40-degree day. That's a 40-degree day. Wire fans, you know what I'm talking about. So, it's Houston, Miami seats. I just think Laramie Tunsil trade, gas mask, whatever. It's all bad. It's for fantasy football. If it's Taylor, you kind of like Taylor. I don't know if he's going to play. We should be worried about the fact that he hasn't played yet. I don't know. Brandon Cooks, poor guy. I mean, he's toiling away. Could have been a happier trade deadline for him. And what's there to be happy about for Miami and Miami fans right now? See, these are both. This is the ownership matters bowl.
That's true. This is the avoid all of your Dolphins and Texans every day. There you go, pot stoner degenerate Jason. Okay, Cooks, whatever. Dolphin side, Waddle.
Well, Parker, if he can stay healthy.
Parker.
Gaskin, because it should be okay because it's Houston.
If you had Noah Fant, you couldn't get Albert Okwuegbunam. I don't know.
Yeah, this is where we are, and it should be a good week for Tua. Tua is a streamer. You maybe in DFS you would dabble, put together some Miami lineups because it's Houston and it should come easy. So it did come easy for Tua against some bad defenses, Atlanta and Jacksonville. But really, this is just a depressing game. Two franchises at a very depressing point in their trajectory, and that's why it makes sense that maybe Deshaun Watson is going to change teams, right? Like he's a central player, even though he's nowhere to be seen. So let's turn the page.
Let's turn the page to Atlanta and New Orleans. This game has so many narratives. This is narrative street, just between these two cities, Bloom. So the New Orleans side is much more interesting, and the Atlanta side, we hopefully are getting a better beat on how things should go for the Atlanta Falcons. So let's talk about Atlanta before we get to the very interesting and somewhat complicated New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, Atlanta. See, don't you just feel like everything's going to get so much more difficult for the Atlanta offense now? Like you take away Calvin Ridley and you up the difficulty level for everything, right? And Kyle Pitts getting that number one receiver treatment. Maybe it's Marshawn Lattimore this week. Either way, the Saints are not going to let Kyle Pitts beat them. I mean, maybe we could get to a fun place where Matt Ryan, and he did it at Boston College at times. He used to play some YOLO ball, right? Matt Ryan used to make some YOLO throws out there.
Remember that game against Vatek when his helmet got turned around and sideways? He's like throwing, he's looking through the eye hole and he's throwing passes.
Yeah. So maybe we can do that with Kyle Pitts. There's Cordero Patterson. You're still going to keep playing Cordero Patterson, but again, I wouldn't be surprised if everything just becomes more difficult for this offense, especially against the Saints. Play the Saints defense, right? Because in the background here is right now football, I think, is not that much fun for Atlanta. But the Saints, even though they had an emotional week and lost Jameis Winston, are feeling it. I mean, I think this team is rallying around. Mark Ingram, man. I mean, from behind the scenes, it's like the universe for them. Like in the locker room, you lose Jameis Winston, but you get Mark Ingram. So, balances out for them in terms of that social organism, right? See, we're talking about the social organism that the team is, and they're okay. Atlanta, they're at this major crossroads, and then you have, and living down here in New Orleans, I can really illuminate this more. It's kind of like the Giants and the Dodgers. Sorry, baseball reference. In baseball, where they're so different from each other and they embody such a different lifestyle, even though they're close or in the same region, that there's that rivalry that goes very deep. And yeah, it's Falcons week, so the Saints, the city is going to be up for it, and it's going to be hard for the Falcons to match that intensity.
Who are you starting with the Saints? What do we know about
Right.
the Taysom Hill situation? What do we know about the Michael Thomas situation? Bloom, again, like I said, New Orleans, complicated.
Yeah. Well, what did Sean Payton say this morning? Got no details or something like that. When they asked about the quarterback, he's just like, quarterback? We don't know him.
Don't need him.
It's probably going to be Trevor Siemian. And this is where I would ask you, because you covered Trevor Siemian for a good amount of time. Like, tell the folks out there who might not know about Trevor Siemian. Because it wasn't like Denver's games were must-see TV.
Is he going to have time? If he has time, he can take you apart with the short stuff and set up play-action passing. But he's mainly going to rely on the short stuff. If it's 3rd and 7, there's never a 2-yard out route that he doesn't love throwing.
Right.
So the thing with Trevor is time. He gets rattled super easily. Hit him once, hit him twice, and he'll be done. But he's mainly in a shell.
Yeah.
It's like Ghost in the Shell. But like
Yeah.
he's in a shell all the time. It's just how much room is in that shell, right? It depends on how much pressure he's getting.
Right. He can competently. It's like Mike White, right? Like he can competently. Last week at least, he can competently run the plays. You know, if he has time and the play works executed, then he's going to execute it. So it's not changing our approach to this offense. I'm still Alvin Kamara, but it becomes more interesting because you have all these passing concepts where you can use Alvin Kamara as a receiver and detach him from the formation, and you have Mark Ingram, who looks rejuvenated and can be the running back, right? Mm-hmm. This actually can be the best of both worlds for the Saints because they can have both of them on the field often. And for fantasy, it makes, especially in this matchup, it makes Mark Ingram a what the heck flex or more, because this could be the new blueprint because, well, by the way, Michael Thomas is out for the year. Thanks. Dr. Gene has been on this from day one, right?
Yeah.
From day one, it was like, when's Michael Thomas going to return, Dr. Gene? Dr. Gene, like, well, I'm not sure that he's going to return or when he's going to return because this is still, and here we are. And they tried to trade for Odell Beckham. Or at least there were talks, whatever that means. It would have been interesting to bring him here and see how that went. But, Marquez Callaway, Traquan Smith, maybe you throw a Hail Mary with these guys because it is Atlanta. Because Trevor Siemian it makes the pass offense a different pass offense. Deontay Harris is interesting because there's not the idea of the deep ball, the play action.
Who's running
bomb.
close to the line of scrimmage? That'll be Trevor's favorite guy.
Yeah, and we'll see. Alvin Kamara, right? I mean, why not? Why can't Alvin Kamara catch like 12 or 10, 12, 13 balls a game from here on out? Like Christian McCaffrey, but let Mark Ingram do the dirty work between the tackles and let Kamara just be primarily a receiver. It sounds good to me.
All right. The next game up has some complications around it. It's the Vegas Raiders against the Giants. And we all know about the Henry Ruggs situation. Bloom, I don't know how much you want to share with everybody, but it's a drunk driving or inebriated driving, whatever it was. This obviously has had a major impact on your life. Mm-hmm. I personally, I wish I would have met Jeff Wilson, man. I wish I would have, because he's your best friend and he's so close to you, and you and I have become so close. And to lose him early in this show, for people that have listened a long time, they may remember when you had to take some time off because of the accident that you were involved with. So again, I don't know how much you want to bring up. I'm sorry if I don't want to upset you ever, but yeah, man,
sure.
I don't think this is a situation to make fun of. Drunk driving isn't fun. You have Uber, you have limos. It's Vegas. There's somebody with a bicycle somewhere. There's no reason for anyone to drunk drive. There never was, but now especially. So, yeah, we're going to talk about the Henry Ruggs thing and fantasy football, but the loss of life due to a drunk driver, or inebriated driver, or whatever the situation is, it's not a fun subject.
No, No, and just like briefly, I'll say what Cecil's alluding to. I know a lot of people out there have heard the story, but yeah, my good friend Jeff Wilson, we lost him when a drunk driver went into a crowd of us that were waiting to cross the street after a Black Crowes concert. I woke up in the hospital. In some ways, I might not be here with you right now doing this show if that hadn't happened, because it was a moment in my life that was you can just be standing on the side of the road and get hit by a car. Like, you start trying to make your life like what you want it to be today. And doing that in Jeff's name and honor too. But hopefully my prayer from this in this moment, since it kind of took the needle off the record in the NFL season and everybody felt it was jarring, right? Is that it saves a few lives, or saves some lives being ruined because of drunk driving. And it's one of those things that, a DWI puts a major cramp in your life for a long time, and it's expensive too. So, it's just not just don't, and look, I'm not here to judge or point fingers at people. I'm just here to say that hopefully it tilts a few more decisions in the right direction. Like you said, he's with Uber now. So there's just...
And he's facing 2-year minimum sentence, I believe, is Class B felony for driving.
Drew Davenport did a really great write-up on our site about that. And
okay.
Folks, if you, so, he's released from the team, though, and, let's talk about the game, right? Because, wow, the Raiders have traversed some terrain this year as a team, as a social organism, right? I couldn't help think when Eric Stone and I were talking yesterday that this is kind of like the curse of having a team in Las Vegas, right? Like, this just feels so frenetic. It just feels all of it, now this. And they have to pull it together. I mean, let's speak on this. Let's talk about the social organism side of this. This is like the theme of the show today, right? But like the locker room, it's a family, right? I mean, this is like something, and he's gone too. I mean, he's not there, and there's not closure. But again, this team kind of had the same thing happen with John Gruden already this year.
Yeah.
So sometimes teams can rally around each other, and they can really grow and bond through these things. And a way that we can see where they're at on that is how they play. From a fantasy standpoint, it's the Giants defense. I'm not that intimidated by them. So, Jacobs hopefully being healthy coming out of the bye. Waller, who now becomes even more of a focal point of the offense. I know not having Ruggs loosened up defenses, but I still think Renfro, Waller, and the running game, you can make those three elements work off each other. And then you still have Bryan Edwards, who will lay out and try to make plays downfield, at least when Derek Carr sees something. What they need to do, Cease, bring back John Brown, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just bring back Smokey.
Yeah, let him have it.
Bring back Smokey, right? So we'll see. But I'm very interested to see how this team plays as a response to another shock to a team that has continually bounced back from them and is coming into this game having played their best football of the year going into the bye.
Giants side, it looks like Saquon Barkley is going to be back. We'll continue to watch his practice status, which means Devontae Booker can either go back to your bench or back to the waiver wire, I guess, with Sterling Shepard, right? Like every week. And who's relying on Kenny Golladay? Nobody. But your Giants side, Daniel Jones, I think there's like a little cult following for Giants fantasy assets, right? I really like this Daniel Jones guy. Well, do you like him against Vegas?
Probably. Vegas's defense is not one that makes me think they're going to make fantasy underachievers on the other side of the ball. I like what Daniel Jones is doing. I thought he played a pretty solid game. I know it's Kansas City, like you should light them up. But look, we're just building here. We're building momentum. And maybe getting Kenny Golladay back this week. I'm still not sure about Saquon Barkley. So stepping through the fantasy assets here, Devontae Booker, especially with Daniel Jones taking the smart check down, Booker looking good. One thing you can say about Booker Cease is urgency again. He plays with urgency. He runs with urgency. He gets the ball. He gets upfield in a hurry. He gets the yards that are there. He is a full out effort guy, and that sounds like that can work if Barkley's out. If Galladay's on the field, you're probably going to play him. I still think that there's something to be harnessed there with Daniel Jones giving Golladay a chance to make those 50-50 ball plays. And Golladay is still a good player. Ingram didn't get traded. Has some momentum in fantasy leagues. And again, targets falling free now from Sterling Shepard's injury, which brings us to Kadarius Toney. And I think we know what Kadarius Toney is now, Cease, right? I mean, he's kind of like a scratch-off ticket or something. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, you don't know what you're going to get. I mean, you might get 12 for 180. You might get hurt 3 plays into the game. Who knows? Maybe you get one of these times like an unexpected healthy scratch because of something. So I think that, of course, I'm drawn to that in fantasy football, right? Like, I like to roll the dice, and I think that that's where we are with him. Hopefully this offense and this team building some momentum coming off the near upset of the Chiefs.
Yeah, near upset. That counts as a win, right? If you're a team like the Giants.
If you're trying to keep your job and you're Joe Judge.
New England and Carolina is our next game up here, and the Patriots side of things is get everybody ready, and your backup running backs continue to confound and confuse. It's Damian Harris, but is it a Brandon Bolden week? Is it a Ramondre Stevenson week? Is it J.J. Taylor week? Who knows?
Yeah.
Or do you know against Carolina?
Yeah. I mean, for fantasy, this isn't that interesting, right? It's a much more interesting thing to think of the marathon through the minefield, Cease. And the New England almost got blown up by that mine they drove over against Houston. And we thought, well, do we have to adjust to the idea that this is a bottom third of the league team? And it ends up, no, that's not actually it at all. And this team is still a very dangerous team. They took Dallas to the brink, and they thumped the Jets, who have beaten the Titans and the Bengals, and then they humbled the Chargers in what was a road, quote-unquote, road game, as they had the crowd. And in the background, Cease, again, 6 Degrees of Eric Stoner in the couch this week, you're talking about the NFL maybe going too far, pushing rookie quarterbacks on the field, or the things that they value in rookie quarterbacks. And I'm going to take the L on this one for sure, that it ends up who's in the background saying, yes, like Emperor Palpatine, right? Like everything's going exactly as I had hoped. It's Belichick having Mac Jones fall into his lap. And Mac Jones was the rookie quarterback that was ready to play, right? Out of the 5, the one that was ready to play, like really ready to play. And here we are, and this team is getting stronger, right? And they're settling into their blueprint. They're settling into their mode. The running game plays on defense, plays on special teams, and it's coming around. So against Carolina, yeah, they're going to have success, which I think you get Damian Harris up to 25 carries again, right? And then probably nothing else, although we'll watch for development because Nelson Aguilar is good enough to have sustained fantasy value if Mac Jones continues to improve, if the defenses are overplaying the run because that is the main mode of this offense. Jacoby Myers can give the man a touchdown. We still have the 2 tight end offense, but this feels like a game to me that for Carolina, this is one I think that is another vault forward for this New England team that is evolving. And for Carolina, I think they're swirling. I know they just won Atlanta or whatever. They just won last week, but this is a team that is swirling and it kind of feels pointless, right? Like, what has Matt Rule built so far? Like, what is this team based on? I don't know, and I think New England probably can expose that.
He's built a team where nobody wants to go there. I mean, he's done something. All right, good job, Matt Rule. Nobody wants to play for you. I guess Christian McCaffrey might be back. I don't know. Wednesday morning early, and it's one of those weeks, like going over the preview, I'm like, oh, Carolina. Well, I don't want to start my Panthers unless I have Christian McCaffrey and unless he's back, and then, of course, I start him. But other than that, it's not terribly exciting.
Right. We got DJ Moore. Could have had a touchdown last week, but still kind of slumping for fantasy. It's either Sam Darnold, who has been tormented by Belichick, or PJ Walker, and it's Belichick's defense that will take away the one thing that works. That's DJ Moore in the passing game. So, yeah, all roads lead back to 0. I guess Chuba Hubbard maybe this week if McCaffrey's not ready. Also, you would just err on the side of playing him, but this could be an ugly one for the Panthers.
Could be an ugly one for the Panthers, and our final one isn't much better. It is Buffalo and it is Jacksonville. Bill's side, everybody. Bill side, watch Emmanuel Sanders practice reports. E gonna do E unless he's hurt. Kind of the common theme. More Gabriel now with more Gabriel Davis.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So Buffalo side against Jacksonville. Yeah. Feel good about all of your
Right.
Buffalo Bills players.
Right. Now it's Saquon Barkley. Barley wine. Saquon Barkley on the COVID list, according to the report, the chat room's reporting sees. So, but go back and revise that Devontae Booker take for sure. And it reminds me again of the Aaron Rodgers Koof news. Sorry, I've already blown it. The writers of the season, right? The Adrian Peterson twist, the writers of the season, and maybe, just maybe, the writers of the NFL season are writing a Buffalo Bills season, right? So, this is another stepping stone along the way. It should be. And the good news is, last week, everything went against the Bills for a half. Miami was grinding out long drives. Buffalo was stalling out every time they were getting on the field quickly and putting that defense back out on the field for another long drive. And Miami had this upset bid going. And then the Bills just smoked them in the second half. Just you left them in the wake, right? So that's good. That's a good team, right? That's what a good team does. And we'll see if they can do it this week. For fantasy, yeah, get your Bills in. It's Jacksonville. It's a hapless team. See, so you want to talk about pointless, and we'll see if Dawson Knox is back. Zach Moss is getting more catches out of the backfield. What's pointless is this Jacksonville season. I know Jacksonville fans are on it long. This whole thing just feels pointless. It's like that we have to even spend breath on the Urban Meyer. The Urban Meyer Jags, if James Robinson isn't out there, is really the most pointless thing in the NFL.
Yeah, and then it makes me go, Shad Khan, you're a zillionaire. Come on, man. Come on.
Yeah.
You sit down in a room with Urban Meyer, and you're like, I got to hire this guy.
Right. That's my guy.
Seriously?
I see you in me.
Dude, you're a zillionaire. Like, come on. Like, you're supposed to be better than that. Anyway, Here's what here you go. Always love. Wait, we have to talk about Jacksonville. Oh, yeah, Jacksonville.
Right. Agnew, Arnold. This is where we start, Cease. What if I told you back in August, here are your fantasy options from the Jags, Dan Arnold and Jamal Agnew? It just about sums it up, right?
Yeah, pretty much. By the way, Bloom, do you like my T-shirt? My
Orange Crush?
Your enemies? But it has
Crush
Conan.
Your enemies. Oh, yeah. I was teaching Noah about Conan.
Conan, what is best in life?
A month or two ago. He loved that quote.
To see them driven before you and to hear the lamentations of the women's.
We really want to go on the couch here. See, the Schwarzenegger, we've talked about this many times, the Schwarzenegger Stallone movies. Because I was watching those movies very inappropriately when I was the age they were when they came out. So, 5, 6, 7, the early 80s,
the first
right?
Conan was rated R. And I remember my mom taking me to see it in the theater. And
I saw lots of R-rated. Yeah, I saw a lot of R-rated movies in the theater with my parents too.
Yeah,
with my parents.
Stripes,
48 Hours.
Or Stripes. I remember the shower scene. My mom's holding my hand over my eyes. I'm like, "What? What is that? What? Huh?" And so, yeah.
Where did it all go wrong? How did we end up here?
R-rated movies. Crush your enemies. That's for sure. That's what you want to do in fantasy and in life. That is a wrap for today's show. We love you. We appreciate you. And we appreciate you checking out footballguys.com. You want to support the show? You love the show? Go to footballguys.com. Click that orange button that says join now and join us on this fantasy football journey. You are the hero. We are the guide. You can save time, worry less, win more. Bloom, there's sometimes I forget that, and then I forget it's also right at the bottom of our screen.
Yeah, save time.
Save time, worry less, win more. What is cramping my brain? Actually, I got to think of a story about fighting against the past version of yourself. Mm-hmm. And then I'm going to use Lump from Presidents of the United States as our intro, since we talked about Lump. Anyway, there you go. A little inside baseball. That's my baseball reference. All righty, Sigmund. I'm Cecil. We're the Audible. Stay tuned and stay frosty.